Today I'm going to show you how to make the Vintage Dreams crochet blanket. It's a light open weave blanket that's still cuddly and warm. This blanket comes together quickly and easily. I've written the pattern for baby blanket size, Lapghan, and throw blanket. The link to the pattern will be in the description box below. So let's get started. For this project, I'm using a 4.5mm hook. You'll need something to cut your yarn with, a tapestry needle to sew everything in, and some worsted weight yarn. For my project, I used Bernat Big Value in white, and I used 5 skeins of yarn. For this demonstration, I'm going to use gray, so it's hopefully easier to see. To get started, I'm going to chain 124. This will be for the smaller blanket. If you want to make the throw blanket, chain 159. If you want to make this pattern in a different measurement, you'll need a number that is a multiple of 7 plus 3. Don't make your chains too tight, since you'll need to easily get the crochet hook into the chain to make the stitches in the next row. For row 1, I'm going to start by making 1 double crochet in the 4th chain from the hook. If you look at the front of the chain, they all look like little V's. I'm going to turn my chain to the back and go through the little bumps that are on the back of the chain. I'm going to count to the 4th bump from the hook and go through that one with a double crochet. Now that first chain is going to count as my first double crochet, and the double crochet I just made is going to count as my second double crochet. I'm going to skip the next 2 stitches, and in the next stitch I'm going to do a double crochet, chain 4, and a double crochet. All of those stitches are going to be in the same chain space. So now you can see the chain space where I just made the double crochet, and I'm going to put the second double crochet through that same space. And this is going to make a kind of a V-shaped shell. We have the 2 double crochets at the beginning and the V-stitch. Now we're going to skip 2 spaces again, and we're going to do another double crochet. And do a double crochet in the next stitch as well. So our pattern so far is 2 double crochets, a V-stitch, and then we have 2 double crochets again. So we're going to continue on in the same pattern, skip 2 stitches, and then do another V-stitch in this 1 chain space. So again, to make the V-stitch, we're going to do a double crochet, then chain 4, and then I'm going to do another double crochet in the exact same chain space. Skip 2 chain spaces, and then I'm going to do another 2 double crochets over the next 2 chain spaces. I'm going to continue on all the way until the end with this same pattern, with 2 double crochets, skip 2 spaces, and then a V-stitch, skip 2 spaces, and then 2 double crochets, all the way until the end. You should start with 2 double crochets and end with 2 double crochets. And if you're doing the smaller baby blanket, there should be 17 pattern repeats, and if you're doing the larger throw blanket, there should be 22 pattern repeats. And I will meet you at the end. We've reached the end of row 1, so we're going to chain 2 and turn, and we'll get started with row 2. To start, I'm going to do 1 double crochet in the top of the second double crochet from the previous row. So for this pattern, the first chain 2 is going to count as a double crochet. So now I have 2 double crochets beside each other, and now I'm going to chain 5. I'm going to skip over the V that we created with the double crochet, chain 4 double crochet in the previous row, and I'm going to do 1 double crochet in the top of the next 2 double crochets from the previous row. After those 2 double crochets, I'm going to do another chain 5. Skip over the V-stitch made in the previous row and do a double crochet on the top of each double crochets from the previous row. So my pattern for row 2 is going to be 2 double crochets, chain 5, 2 double crochets, all the way till the end. We're going to start with 2 double crochets and end with 2 double crochets. And if you're doing the smaller baby blanket, there should be 17 pattern repeats, and for the larger throw blanket, there should be 22 pattern repeats. And I will meet you back at the end. Start row 3, I'm going to chain 2 and turn. Do a double crochet in the top of the double crochet from the previous row. For the next part of the pattern, I need to join the lines made by the chains from the previous 2 rows. To do this, I'm going to chain 2, and I'm going to make a single crochet over top of the chain 5 space from the previous row and over top of the chain 4 space from the row before that. So now my 2 lines are held together by that 1 single crochet. I'm going to chain 2 and do a double crochet in the top of the next 2 double crochets from the previous row. And this is what the pattern looks like so far. Do a chain 2, and then I'm going to single crochet around the 2 lines made by the chain 5 and the chain 4 from the previous 2 rows. Chain 2 again, and then I'm going to do a double crochet in the top of the next 2 double crochets from the previous row. Going to continue on in that same pattern all the way until the end. It should start and end with 2 double crochets. There should be 17 pattern repeats for the baby blanket and 22 pattern repeats for the throw blanket, and I'll meet you at the end. For row 4, I'm going to do a chain 2 and turn. Do 1 double crochet in the top of the second double crochet from the previous row. In the single crochet space from the previous row, I'm going to make a group of 1 double crochet, chain 4, 1 double crochet. All of those stitches are going to go in the same single crochet space from the previous row, and they are going to make another V-stitch. So the pattern for row 4 is going to end up looking exactly the same as our first row that we made at the beginning of the blanket. Do a double crochet in each of the double crochet spaces from the previous row. And then I'm going to make another V-stitch in the top of this single crochet space from the previous row by doing a double crochet, chain 4, and a double crochet all in the same stitch. I'm going to continue on making 2 double crochets and then a V-stitch in the top of the single crochet spaces from the previous row all the way until the end. I'm going to start with 2 double crochets and the row should end with 2 double crochets. The baby blanket size is 17 pattern repeats and the throw blanket size is 22, and I will meet you at the end. For the rest of the blanket, we're going to continue repeating rows 2 through 4 until you have your desired length. For the baby blanket, the length should be 36 inches or 90 centimeters. For the Lapghan, the length should be 48 inches or 120 centimeters. And for the throw blanket, the length should be 60 inches or 150 centimeters. Once you've reached the desired length, finish with a row 3, and then we're going to start the border. I'm working on a row 3 right now, so when you get to the bottom of your blanket, this is what your ending row should look like. Since the pattern details throughout the blanket look more involved and intricate, I want to stick to a simple border. Starting at the corner you finished in, with the yarn still attached, we're going to chain 4. Skip 3 spaces and slip stitch into the next stitch. Chain 4, and then skip 3 spaces and slip stitch into the next stitch. I'm going to continue in the same pattern, doing a chain 4 and doing a slip stitch after you skip 3 spaces, all the way until the end of the row. In the corner, you're going to do an extra chain 4 with a slip stitch to the corner. Don't worry about the skipped 3 spaces. This extra loop is going to help the blanket lay flat and keep its rectangular shape as we add on the next round of the border. When you're going down the sides of the blanket, you might find it difficult to distinguish the stitches. You can estimate the amount of space between each slip stitch that you made at the top and bottom, and do the same for the sides. We're going to follow the same pattern all the way around the perimeter of the blanket, making sure to add an extra loop in each corner. Now that I'm back to the beginning, I'm going to start round 2. Chain 4, and then make a slip stitch into the top of the loop from the previous round. Chain 4 again, and then make a slip stitch into the top of the next loop from the previous round. I'm going to continue doing chain 4s and slip stitching to the top of each loop from the previous round all the way around the perimeter of the blanket until I reach where I started. When you reach the corners, just treat them the same way you would any other loop, just do a chain 4 and slip stitch to the top. Since we made the extra loop in the last round, it should stay in a rectangular shape. When you've reached the beginning, finish with a slip stitch, tie off the yarn, cut and weave in the ends. And that's it. I hope you had fun making the blanket. Until next time, happy crafting!